Good afternoon. This is the Thurston County Transportation Benefit District meeting of March 16th, 2021. I'm President Carolina Mejia. Also present are Vice President Gary Edwards and Board Member Ty Menser, County Manager Ramiro Chavez, Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, I do not see her actually, Public Works Director Jennifer Walker, Clerk of the Board Marcy Taylor, and Public Works staff. You can follow along on Zoom. If you would like to listen and follow along, please watch the live stream through the Thurston County YouTube channel. You can also call the phone number 360-252-9020, and the PIN number is 1234. The meeting is called to order, and we will start with a motion to approve today's agenda.
I would move to approve the agenda.
Microphone, please.
I would move to approve the agenda of March 16th, 2021.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
He did say aye.
Did he say aye?
You voted affirmative, right, Commissioner Menser?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carried to approve the meeting minutes. Just kidding. Is there a motion? It has been moved and seconded. Sorry. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
I would move to approve the meeting minutes from October 20th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay.
You need to vote.
Oh, aye.
Thank you.
Motion carried and approved. The next item on the agenda is the opportunity for the public to address the board. The TBD board welcomes public comment. If you would like to call into the meeting to comment, the phone number is 360-252-9020, and the PIN is 1234. When you're called on, please state your name and the area of the county which you reside. The county manager will go over the speaking guidelines.
Thank you, Madam President. Please state your name, where you're at in the county. You have 4 minutes. Please refrain in any public testimony could be offensive or taken out of context. And any public testimony you might be providing today, any documentation will be considered part of a public record.
Okay. And so today we're going to go with the people in the boardroom. We have one person, John Pettis.
Madam President and Commissioners, or Vice President and member. My name is John Pettit. I live out on Rich Roads in East Olympia. This has been a very long-term topic that I've come and spoke at year after year regarding this, because I do not actually believe you're supposed to be having a transportation benefit district at this particular point in time, and I'm going to cover a couple different elements. I provided you a set of documents to the board, and one of the documents, of course, is that currently the Board of County Commissioners has been transferring out of the road district funds an amount total right for this year of $4,250,000. Now, the Transportation Benefit District is designed in order to do improvements and projects. As of today's date, this having been open since 2015, there has never been an actual project performed. And one of the reasons why is there's never been a form of income collected. Now, I have to tell you, it's very difficult for me to imagine that you're going to want to impose greater taxes by opening up that door when you're still taking over $4 million out of the road funds, which would indicate you already have an abundance of money available, or you wouldn't be taking it out. Now, the second part to this is, I actually feel like Ms. Mejia's kind of got the short end on this, because the law actually states that the district's supposed to be dissolved and dissolve itself and cease to exist 30 days after financing or debt service on the transportation improvement, there's never been one, or series of improvements constructed is completed and paid. There's never been a debt on one. We've had this for 5 years. We've never had a project. All of the debt that's actually accumulated over all the years has been creating reports and encouragement for creating a tax base, such as putting additional charges on license tabs and everything. And so while I happen to tell you we could not have a better public works department, I happen to love all these people. They're just great people, every single one of them. And, but I have to disagree about the idea of continuing a district if the law actually calls for it to shut down. I think somewhere the board needs to say goodbye to the debt. And when you have a project, this is a good option to go after it once we stop taking money out of the regular road fund balance. Because why would we take $4 million out of there and then say, we need $2 million for a project? It doesn't really weigh itself properly. Road taxes are for roads, and each one of you have people that, well, we live in the unincorporated Thurston County. We have to have our roads. We don't like potholes. We want to have the best roads we can. And every time there's money taken out of that fund, we get less, and it's put into the general fund for other purposes. The unincorporated kind of take the brunt of this. I would suggest you revise and consider whether you want to keep this particular program or at a time when it's necessary, start it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone on Zoom?
There does, President Mejia, there doesn't appear to be.
In front of the Transportation Benefit District. Please unmute yourself. State your name, where you reside in the county. You have 4 minutes. None, ma'am.
Okay, moving on to item 3, department items. The first item, 3A, it's to ratify the elections of Thurston County Transportation Benefit District TCTBD officers for 2021. And Scott Lindblom is going to present on this.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Scott Lindblom, County Engineer with Public Works. This item for your consideration today is to ratify the election of the TCTBD officers. And just as you may recall, on January 5 of this year, the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners nominated Commissioner Carolina Mejia as president, Commissioner Gary Edwards as vice president, and Commissioner Ty Menzer as board member of the 2021 Thurston County Transportation Benefit District. So the recommended action for you is to move to ratify the election of the officers for 2021.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Menzer?
None.
Vice President Edwards?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yes, I would move to ratify the election of the Thurston County Transportation Benefit District officers for 2021, as stated by Scott.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried and ratified.
Thank you.
Okay. Now the next matter, 3B, which is 2020 Thurston County Transportation Benefit District TCTBD Annual Report And the presenter is going to be Matt Unzelman.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Matt Untzman. I'm Thurston County Traffic Engineering and Operations Manager. The Board of County Commissioners adopted an ordinance in 2014 that created the Thurston County Transportation Benefit District. You're going to be hearing TBD all the time. That's the Transportation Benefit District. That would address preservation, safety, and technology in the unincorporated areas of Thurston County. And the idea of this is to meet the existing needs as well as the forecasted needs of the county traffic conditions. In accordance with RCW 3673-160, the TBD must issue an annual report with transportation improvement costs and revenues, as well as construction schedules. I'm now going to quickly walk you through the annual report for 2020. And the annual report can be found in your briefing materials packet as well. On page 1, lists the accomplishment. 1 TC TBD meeting was held in 2020. The meeting included the 2019 annual report, the 2019 transportation year in review, the planned 2020 transportation work, and the presentation of the county road safety plan. Much of what you're going to hear today in our presentation. With the exception of the county road safety plan, which we'll be returning to present at a future briefing this year. On page 2, you'll see the district revenues. The TBD received no revenues in 2020 and did not expand any funds. On page 3, you'll see expenditures, $4,200 in liabilities from Thurston County Public Works were incurred to plan for and attend TBD meetings. Thurston County Public Works will be reimbursed for these expenses once the TBD begins collecting revenue. On page 3, you'll notice that $115,000 has been spent to date since the inception of the TBD. However, most of that was spent in 2018 at the direction of Board of County Commissioners when a consultant was hired to do education and outreach to determine what the level of support was for the Transportation Benefit District. On sheet 4 of your annual plan, you'll see the status of projects. We have not completed any projects with TBD funding. On page 5 is construction schedules. No schedules have been completed because we don't have any TBD revenue. And on page 6, you should see some familiar faces. It's the organization of the TBD in 2020. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we would move that the president, vice president, and members of the TBD accept the 2020 TC Transportation Benefit District Report.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Board Member Menser?
None for me. No, thank you.
Vice President Edwards?
I would guess, being we're accepting the 2020 report by the 2021 board, we'd have a change in board members at some point in positions.
That'd be correct. In the 2021 annual report, it'll reflect the board for 2021.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 2020 TBD annual report and direct staff to post its availability in the newspaper?
Yes.
Am I reading the wrong?
Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
I would move to accept the 2020 Thurston County Transportation Benefit District Annual Report and direct staff to post its availability in the newspaper of record for Thurston County.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried to approve the 2020 TBD annual report and direct staff to post its availability in the newspaper of record in Thurston County. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 3C, and it's a presentation of the 2020 Transportation Year in Review and 2021 Transportation Capital Construction, Maintenance, and Preservation. And Scott Lindblom, County Engineer, will be presenting.
Yes, good afternoon once again. And if I may, at the request of Vice President Edwards, I'd like to give just a brief update on the status of the sand shed down at the Tilley campus. The Tilley Road campus, the new sand shed, is being installed on the near the south part of the Tilley Road campus. It's currently under construction, and right now the contractor is on schedule and within budget. The structural fill has been placed, compacted, and inspected. About 60% of the storm drain system is in. The footings for the building are formed up and rebar has been installed. Footings are scheduled to be installed or to be poured today, and I believe I saw the truck down there today. The slab itself is scheduled to be poured next week. The structural steel is on site, and the contractor plans to start erecting the building in about 3 weeks. The roof panels are staged on site as well and will be installed once the structural steel is in place. Completion of this sand shed is really going to be helping our crews be able to respond quickly to snow events and flooding events, because the sand shed itself keeps the sand dry, which allows our crews to use equipment without putting themselves at risk while they load trucks and unload trucks on the road. But this is a really key investment for us to help us provide the best services we can to our citizens and to keep our crews safe. And I'll turn it to Lucy in case she has anything else she wants to add.
I'd like to give you just a little, Lucy Mills, Road Operations Manager. I'd like to give you a little background on our existing sand shed. It was built back in the early 90s. It served us well for many years, but due to deterioration on the metal covering, we've purchased some new canvas to put over that, but due to that deterioration, the canvas is not staying, and currently it's been tore off, and we only have half of the sand shed covered. Having dry sand is important to our operations in emergency response efforts. When you have wet sand and you load that into the back of a dump truck at night and the truck drives down the road, when the temperature drops, that sand actually freezes in the back of the dump truck. And so you can't put it out on the roadway. You have to bring that truck back into the campus, put it into a bay, and let it sit in there for several hours to defrost before you can get back out on the road with it. Also, if the sand is frozen while it's out in the stockpile, you have to take a loader or backhoe, break that sand up, load it into the dump truck, and then any clumps that are still left get plugged up in the conveyor belt in the spinner, breaking it. And then we have to bring that truck back in to the shop, have it repaired. And sometimes it can take several hours or days to get all those parts put back together, again, hindering our emergency response. Also, dry sand is important when we're making sandbags for emergency flooding events. We have a sandbagging machine, and when you put that wet sand in there, it clumps it up, and we have to stop and then start manually making our sandbags, which slows our response significantly. So those are just some of the reasons that it's really important that we have dry sand during the winter operations. With that, I'll turn it back to Scott.
Are there any questions on that before I dive into the next part of the presentation?
Questions from the board?
Do I have any questions for Scott? Is that what Commissioner Menser said?
No, I said that sand shed sounds like a real bargain.
Oh, okay. Well, someday we'll have to enlighten our fellow commissioner about some issues as time goes on. But today, to keep it brief, I think I'll just accept that report. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. So, April, if we could have the next slide on. Wonderful. So, what we're going to do is take just a moment to look back at the capital projects we completed back in 2020 for the Public Works Department. And then after that, I'll turn it over to Steve and Lucy, and they'll talk about what's coming up in 2021. The next slide, please. So in 2020, while we worked on a host of projects in different phases, some in design, some in planning, some in construction, in the calendar year of 2020, we did complete 5 capital projects representing an investment of about $2.4 million into our community. We have funding from, in this case, from grants, from the real estate excise tax, which supported the fish passage program, and also the county road funds. The 3 fish passage projects we completed last year on Peisner Road and Case Roads, including a new bridge on Jones Road, combined, those 3 projects opened up an additional 6 miles of fish habitat that's been inaccessible for decades for the local salmon. We completed 2 other transportation projects, including a road preservation overlay project on 153rd Avenue Southeast, and completed the closure of 188th Avenue on Moon Road near Rochester. So as I mentioned, it's important to note that several other projects were in construction and were completed in the first quarter of 2021, including the Reeder Road Bridge Project and the Highway Safety Improvement Project. And Steve Bricker will be talking about these in just a moment. Next slide, please. Last year in 2020, we also continued to do routine maintenance and preservation of our road system, which is critical that we do every year. We did overlay of 3 miles last year. We painted the lines on the road. Over 1.1 thousand miles of paint lines were installed. And as part of our maintenance of our roads, we swept and cleaned over 3,000 miles of roads. Again, all that work is done by county forces. Next slide, please. In addition, our crews continue to be busy every year cleaning drain pipes, catch basins, routinely replacing lights and traffic control devices or signs. We're responsible for lots of school crosswalk beacons, and we continue to maintain those. And one of the more sobering statistics is we picked up over 200,000 pounds of litter from county roadways. Next slide, please. So we'll turn it over to Steve and Lucy at this point.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Steve Bricker, the construction manager for Public Works, and I'm going to be talking to you about the 2021 capital projects in relation to the transportation system. We have a total of 8 transportation projects planned this year. 2 of the 8 are fish passage projects. On Gate Road, we're going to replace 2 culverts with 1 bridge and 1 fish culvert. At Latigo Street and the Chehalis Western Trail, we will be replacing 4 culverts with 2 bridges. We'll have 2 safety projects this year, one of which we recently completed. It was the Highway Safety Improvement Project. On that project, we installed 3,000 new feet of guardrail, so new guardrail installed. 8,000 feet of existing substandard guardrail was replaced. 5 miles of edge and centerline rumble strips were installed on Rainier Road. And I just want to point out, centerline rumble strips have been shown to reduce head-on fatal and injury crashes by 45%. And the edge line rumble strips reduced run off the road and fatal injury crashes by 36%. Also, the other safety project that will start later on this year is the first phase of the Pacific Avenue Safety Improvements Project. And we'll be installing mid-block crossings, mid-block crosswalks, bus stops, and be replacing substandard ADA ramps off of Pacific Avenue. There's also 4 road upgrade projects planned this year. Reeder Road is the new bridge that we installed to replace the structurally deficient railroad car bridge that restricted traffic on Reeder Road. At Yelm Highway and Meridian, at the intersection, we'll be installing a new roundabout along with pedestrian facilities. And then there'll be the final phase of Vale Road. So last section of the road on an ongoing reconstruction program we've been doing on that road. So 1.5 miles of Vale Road will be reconstructed from 138th Avenue to 152nd Avenue. And then also we'll be completing the Mullen Road project that we started late 2019 this year as well. With that, I'll pass to Lucy to talk about preservation and maintenance.
Okay, next slide, please. Thank you, April. Lucy Mills, Road Operations Manager. Public Works has over 1,000 centerline miles of roadway infrastructure, including 144 bridges to maintain every year. These maintenance activities include sweeping, brushing, ditching, pothole patching, striping, sign maintenance, and much, much more. In 2021, we estimate that all those activities will cost about $10.5 million, which includes labor, equipment, and material costs. Preservation projects for the next 2 years include 18 miles of overlay in 2021 on portions of Vale Road and Vale Cutoff Road near Rainier, Churchill Road near Tenino, and as well as Michigan Hill Road and Prather Road near Rochester. Our 2022 preservation project consists of 60 miles of chip seal roads in the northeast area of the county. Actual costs for these projects will likely be higher than this estimate due to increased material costs. Between January and March of this year, there has been an 11% increase in the cost of oil alone. The price of oil can fluctuate weekly, so on our projects, we will be using an asphalt cost price adjustment bid item. This allows us to secure better bids with less risk on materials containing oil. We'll also build in a 10% contingency fund for any other material increases that we might see on those projects over the next 2 years. Are there any questions?
Questions? Commissioner Answer? Go ahead.
So I don't know who would be good to answer this. I know that you might not have numbers, but I'm just kind of looking for a ballpark. We see that we're going to do 60 miles of chip seal and 18 miles of overlay. How much, like if you had perfect world and adequate funding, like how much more would we be doing, sort of on an annual basis? Is this 50% of what we need to be doing, or 75%, or 95%? How close are we getting when we're doing that number of miles in terms of what's needed year to year?
I can answer that one, Ty. We really need to be up more around 80 or 90 miles total a year. So, 20 miles of overlay next year and 60 miles of chip seal the year after is more like what we really need to be doing in one calendar year.
Okay. Thank you.
County Manager?
I'm sorry, I got my mute. Say, Steve, I had a question for you. Is the 18 miles and 60 miles overlay and chip seal, is that center line or lane miles?
That is center line miles, not lane miles.
So that's a significant increase, at least on the overlays, from 3 miles in 2020 to 18 miles in 2021. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Could you say that again, Ramiro?
That's a significant increase in the overlay miles because in 2020, based on this report, we were able to overlay only 3 miles. And in 2021, we expect to overlay 18 miles. That's a significant increase.
Scott, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, there we go. Found my mute. So yeah, that's a good observation. And what we did in 2020 is we made that conscious decision to really focus our efforts and use essentially 2 years worth of funding, push that into 2021, so into this year for a larger overlay contract. And then next year in 2022, what we'll be doing is a bigger chip seal contract. So we're trying to essentially do the Costco approach and buy in bulk, because that saves us, when we have more miles to overlay, we get better unit bid prices. And then similarly with the chip seal, we'll be doing that in 2022 as well. And so then our approach going forward is to do a larger overlay contract 1 year, then do a chip seal 1 year. It saves some work on our end because we're putting out one contract versus two, and we get a better bang for our buck when we issue out larger contracts for bidding.
Thank you, Scott. I would also add that one of the things that we've been focusing on is taking care of what we have. So there has been a conscious effort to do that. And so when we look at what are the capital projects we're doing, when we do those, right, we know that if it's going to cost us less if we do treatments early than waiting. And so we are starting to shift and spend more money on the maintenance, the preservation piece of it versus more of the capital projects and the complete rebuilds.
So I would just call the board's attention that the slide that says 2021 transportation maintenance and preservation, and the left column is 2021, but the right column that I was asking about is 2021, 2022, which is what Steve's comment was explaining. I didn't catch that until he said that. So that 8.1 million is 2 years worth. So just in case the board might have missed that idea.
Go ahead, County Manager.
I'd just like to follow up to the director's comment, and I believe the board agrees with that approach to the extent the board has agreed to invest that real estate excise tax to money, and I believe starting next year to continue the preservation efforts, particularly to an overlay program.
Thank you. Any further questions, comments?
Maybe just one. How many miles of chip seal do we get per $1 million expended? Just general, a general ballpark figure.
Yeah, Steve, I think last year we were about $50,000 per mile for a chip seal, and overlay, I believe, was $325,000 per mile for an overlay contract.
Yeah, that's correct. So you'd be looking at 20 miles of chip seal for the money you were talking about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. So with that, are there any other questions for staff on any issue? Commissioner Meister?
No.
Commissioner Edwards?
I had another question wrote down here, but I might not get there in time. Okay, yes, there is one other question I have. But this probably goes to the county manager. I don't know if we have a legal advisor here today or not, but I am concerned about this RCW 3673170 that does refer to dissolving the district if we're not doing anything. Is there any chance we could have an opinion from legal? I don't know who drives the authority here or if there's a RCW police that checks on it. But could we at least get a opinion from our legal counsel?
Yeah.
I mean, the law lays it out pretty clearly, so, but maybe there's something else that I'm missing. And
it is a little bit different. And this is not a new issue. Mr. Pettis has been consistent on a yearly basis making this, and we have gone through 2-3 legal reviews. The establishment of the TBD and the continuance of having the Transportation Benefit District is within the law. This particular RCW, it talks about transportation improvements after they're completed and the debt is serviced. That's when you're retired. The board has not implemented any improvements related to the TBD, so this clock has not started yet. And that is part of the legal review that was provided to you a couple of years ago. I'll be more than happy to provide you additional perspective on that one.
I think just a copy of that legal review so I could read it. I think that'd suffice for me. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.